you have the legal part of this, but you now have the what does it mean to us part. And I understand that this bothers some to a lot of you. There is something called prosecutorial discretion, okay? They didn't have to bring this case just because they believe they could bring the case. I know no one is above the law, but you do have to consider what it means that they're going after a former president in the middle of an election, okay? Now, why is it that with every indictment we see the poll numbers go up? Why? Because this, for a significant portion of the American electorate, is reinforcing their sense of outrage and grievance about how the system works. My next guest says there could be a revolt, but against Trump because of all of these indictments, and that this actually could be a curative process for the American people. Joining me now, former White House speechwriter for George W. Bush, staff writer for The Atlantic, Mr. David Frum. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what do you think this means in terms of this is one of two of the deepest holes Trump could find himself in? This and then that Georgia state investigation where there was also significant meat on the bones of fraudulent attempts to change the outcome. Do you think this will impact the electorate, and if so, in his favor or against?
Well, I'm not going to predict the outcome of the election. Elections are driven very much by economic matters. I've written a lot about how this election is pretty much tilted in Joe Biden's favor. This is one of the strongest economies of our lifetimes, one of the strongest, certainly the strongest since the late 1990s, arguably the strongest since the late 1960s. So the incumbent has a good story. The thing I want to play out is a lot of people think that if Donald Trump were somehow to win, that these legal troubles of his would go away. And what I've been writing about a lot recently is how even if Donald Trump were somehow to eke it out in the Electoral College as he did in 2016, got 46% of the vote, but that translated into Electoral College majority, even if that happened again, he would not be out of legal trouble. He thinks he will be because he doesn't understand how the system works, but he will not be out of trouble.
That is true. There's an argument to be made that it would just be delayed until he's done. We do know that there'd be a lot of hurdles thrown up that you can't go after a sitting president. And even if legally they were to be found uncompelling, let's think about it politically for a moment and debate the proposition that this is not good for the country. That even if Trump did these things, they are not overwhelmingly impressive to the American people, even though we have about 50% of the American people think he did something illegal. But it's not like 80 or 90%. And this may cause further division and hurt us more than help any sense of fairness in society. Your take?
Let's imagine this. It's the day after Donald Trump has taken the oath of office in 2025. He's been reelected president with 46, 47% of the vote. He won't get a majority. He'll be another minority president owing it to the Electoral College. And at that point, he will have all of these indictments, both federal and state, trundling toward him. Let's say they haven't happened yet. So what he's going to have to do is find some way to stop the federal indictments and stop the state indictments. So with the federal indictments, his first play is, I know, I'll pardon myself. Then I'm out of the woods. Well, no, because the Supreme Court has never ruled on whether the president can pardon himself. He probably can't. I would think he can't, but still we have to wait for the Supreme Court. And so the case begins to go to the Supreme Court. Donald Trump says, no, I'm going to tell the special counsel not to appeal it to the Supreme Court. I'm going to stop the special counsel. Well, at that point, he has to fire the special counsel. At that point, his attorney general resigns, if he's got one in the first place. At that point, the Department of Justice dissolves. And you have and at that point, Congress says, wait a moment, the president of the United States, we have this rule, it's not a law, we have this custom that a president can't be indicted. But this president already was indicted. This president now has a trial date. This president, the trial may have already started. And the president is using the powers of the office to stop the president's own prosecution by firing special counsels and ordering them not to appeal to the Supreme Court. Trouble. Next trouble. The president has no power to pardon in state cases. So those cases continue to prosecute, to move forward. So the president now has to go to the Supreme Court and ask the Supreme Court, which has got some of the lowest poll numbers in the history of polling, stop the states. I want you to stop the states on my behalf. Does the Supreme Court stick its neck out? I don't think so.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.